all you beautiful people. This is Abigail Barella with Sparkle and Shine Guidance, and this is your Sagittarius new moon oracle. And today I'm talking to you about that Sagittarius new moon, but it has a lot of other aspects surrounding it. Some are longer term transits, some are, some quicker transits that are happening, but they're all really important and make this new moon a little bit more edgy than a typical new moon. You might have heard me say that before, because not too long ago we had a new moon that had Uranus involved and had Mars involved. And whenever those two are involved, they're very action oriented, they're very mind blowing, and so the dynamic energy of those two planets tends to bring in maybe some chaos, maybe some inspiration, just any kind of loud influences with these two planets. And we have Mars over in Scorpio, which Scorpio is the traditional ruler of Mars, is very active. Mars is very active in Scorpio. So really interestingly, because we've just gotten over the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, and we have Mercury still traveling through Scorpio while Mars has just ingressed into Scorpio and is going to be having us act on all of those things that we process through Mercury. So Mercury is the processor. It's really getting in alignment with our thought process. That's why there can be malfunctions to anything that has to do with our intelligence or the way that we think. That's why, computers and that kind of thing. Now with Mars, it's much more action oriented. So we're being asked to move in a way that brings in all of that integration that happened during this Mercury retrograde. So those two are conjunct for this new moon, which that on its own brings a very active insight into this new moon. But we also have Uranus newly in Taurus. I mean, it moves really slow. So newly meaning last May, but it's newly into Taurus, and it's making an direct opposition to Mars. And that opposition is super topsy-turvy, super seesaw-y energy. And Uranus is the sudden and at times chaotic awakener, sudden shapeshifter, creating new pathways in our brain to think different ways. It's, it rules Aquarius, so Aquarius is very rebellious and for future thinking, and Uranus is very much of that nature. Now, in opposition between that and Taurus, Taurus is a slow mover. It's a very awkward placement for Uranus to be in for this long transit. But when we have it opposing Mars, which Mars is very action-oriented and Uranus is very action-oriented. So when they're opposing, we really want to look to the signs that they're opposing in. So we have Uranus and Taurus, very into the feminine, very into nature and our surroundings being beautiful, and how we take care of our boundaries, how we take care of ourselves. Then we have Scorpio, which is much more about others and interacting with others and alchemy. And so there's this kind of facing off between the sense of self and our own personal responsibilities, resources, and then the other, and learning how to integrate those at this new moon. We have kind of emerged into a whole new transitional phase. This is actually the last new moon of 2019 that is not an eclipse, okay? So we will have one more eclipse, so powerful solar eclipse on the 25th of December, depending on where you are on the globe. But this is the last new moon in Sagittarius. It also comes when Jupiter's in its last final little home stretch of Sagittarius. And so it's really interesting because we're having Jupiter on the galactic center, which I talked about in one of my posts. I'm going to try and keep this brief. Jupiter on the galactic center is basically blowing wide open our thought process. And, Jupiter is the great expander. It expands anything it touches. It brings light and consciousness to anything it touches. So the fact that it's in Sagittarius on the galactic center means that this new moon being in Sagittarius has us really looking at our intentions for next year, also for our own our own connection to God, Goddess, Source, Love, all one, Creator, whatever you believe in. It really has that aspect because Sagittarius is about that higher truth. It is about that higher knowledge. And when we have the galactic center kicked up with Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius, it's showing us new ways of thinking, new ways of being, and it's really future thinking, future oriented. That paired with the fact that we have Uranus and Mars opposing each other at this new moon means that there is just lots of insights, lots of galactic insights, lots of forward thinking insights, dreams, visions. Definitely journal during this time. There's so much coming in and coming at you, and that might be why this is a time period to really learn how to take space, learning how to care and tend for our space. Also, learning how to not only say no, but say yes. Learning how to not only give, but also receive. This balance, this polarity that's getting lit up is really having us look at where we've been overcompensating or over amplifying one area of our life or one way of being without giving room and space to this other way. So whatever's comfortable for you, really being in the practice of leaning in towards the discomfort at this time is going to be really, I don't want to use the word rewarded because I think that's like it goes into like punitive type thinking, or that's what a lot of the problems I have about the traditional astrology is like all doom and gloom if you don't do this, But I think that if you lean into that, the rewards are in your own consciousness. The rewards are in the things you can't even know are possible for you unless you lean into the discomfort. And this is something, there's quotes from every culture about this, about, just leaning in where it's a little uncomfortable. This new moon is an opportunity to do that. It's also an opportunity to, sign up for that class, do that thing that scares you, because Sagittarius is all about risk taking, but having to do with your health is going to be a better investment than having to do with, Sagittarius on the one end of the spectrum can be about expanding the mind and really growth and all those things. And on the shadow side of Sagittarius is the partier, the one who likes to travel too much at a cost to the self of grounding and centering. So you really want to balance that and look at where you can invest into your health, invest into the good things that are good for you. The other interesting aspect that's happening is that we are having Neptune really activated because it's making a trine to Mercury. It's also somewhat of a making a trine to the North Node in Cancer, which will only be there, when we really look at the long term here. We have this eclipse in December, we have an eclipse in January, and then we're going to move into May being a time where the North Node moves into Gemini. That's a whole different phase. And right now, we're supposed to sit in the discomfort of this transition, sit in the discomfort of transformation and being at peace and at home with it, knowing that this is life. There are going to be ends and beginnings the whole way through. And the more that we can really sit in that discomfort and know that our worth, our value, our meaning on the planet is not stagnant. It's always shifting. It's always changing. And what we gave to others one year, we might need to learn to receive in the next year. And this is a really hard lesson for a lot of us that are very, strength-based or, push through type people, especially fire sign people, which is interesting. This is a fire sign new moon, is learning how to move with that energy and not get stuck in one identity, not get stuck in one way of being. And I think that, to one of the cards that I pulled for this was the Empress card. And I think that the real, ownership of being is knowing that that's always shifting and that we are one with all of our surroundings. And the more that we can understand that, this always shifting has gifts to it, the more that we can be in a place of receiving those gifts. So I hope you have a beautiful new moon. If you want to work with me, this is an ideal time to work with me. So check out the link below. Also, the 2020 planner, the last call to order yours and get it in time for the new year is arrived. And so if you want to order that, you have a few days left. So definitely hit me up. The link is also below.